How, dog? Yeah, unbelievable. We literally just picked up the phone. Libby has not been here all night. And the minute the phone comes up, there she is. Right in. She's worse than Gracie.
I've been sitting here all night.
Anyway,
She's a good girl.
so a couple weeks ago, we talked about an experiment we had heard about, and we started to do. Jessica had done some research on nicotine, and you want to repeat that study?
I don't remember who did the study, but Europe.
She's a little under the weather.
2.8 million people were studied on nicotine, and they were long haul COVID syndrome, and they all got better within 3 days.
And so what they used, this all started with Dr. Artis, and he was talking about people who had long haulers, and with the long haulers came everybody's trying to figure out how to treat long haulers. So for some of these people who had issues with taste and smell and stuff like that, the virus sits in the nicotinic receptors, and they started to use nicotine to push the virus out of the receptor and allow that receptor to start to work again.
And in Europe, even when it first hit, they realized very quickly that smokers who everybody thought were going to get sicker and die more often were actually faring better. And so they actually started doing studies then and found that nicotine was actually protective.
And what I think what has really been vetted out of that whole thing is people with metabolic issues fared the worst.
Yeah.
So we did 6 days of a 7 milligram patch, and it worked. I mean, I don't have a pre and a post, meaning I don't know how good my smell and taste was before.
Not well.
Before the pandemic, but then when it happened, I know I lost it all.
Oh.
And now I can smell again, and I can taste things again. And then how'd it fare for you?
Oh, great. I've always been able to smell excellent. Now it's just wicked sharp. And brain fog is like completely like, that's just amazing. That it was amazing, because like by day 3, my brain just felt so alive, and I couldn't remember numbers. If you gave me more than 1 or 2 numbers, I couldn't remember them for even a few seconds, and now I still remember the number you gave me like a week ago. I can add in my head, and the things that used to taste just rotten, I'm not saying they taste the way they did before, but they don't taste terrible anymore.
I was going to say you actually butter. Willingly ate peanut butter.
Yeah. which is kind of amazing. And I've had numbness and tingling in my feet, and that's actually even more. That's better. So I would say that anybody should try this. I mean, I've told everybody about it because it was so fascinating to me.
And so I guess with this N of 2, it worked for us, and it was super simple. Nicotine is not it's an over the counter,
and it's really important not to use, like, more is not better. Just 7 milligrams for 6 days. And everybody, well, I actually even told my OBGYN about it, and he's like, I'd be interested to see how you fare when you take and get off of it, because I had side effects with the nicotine, but I've never smoked. I don't do drugs. I don't do any of that. And so for the first 3 days, it was what I would consider being high, because that's what I felt like when I came out of surgeries. So I was lightheaded and dizzy. Trevor got nauseous.
Mm-hmm.
but I had 0 side effects when I took the last patch off. Like you can't, it's not addicting with you can't become addictive or wanted, it's not addiction.
Well, when they did the study, Harvard did the study in 20, I forget what year they did the study on nicotine, but they tried to addict rats to nicotine and animals to nicotine, and they ended up having nicotinic poisoning or nicotine poisoning before they could get them to actually be addicted to nicotine. So none of the animals had withdrawal symptoms because none of the animals got addicted to the nicotine.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. And you can't get withdrawal on a 7 milligram patch for only 6 days. And they were very stern on 7 milligrams, no more than 6 days. And honestly, by day 4 or 5, like, I mean, I was probably the best I was going to get. I mean, and I didn't have any issues coming off of it, but I would recommend it to anybody that's suffering.
I would say my sleep was probably affected the most. I had some wicked dreams.
Oh, I did have wicked dreams. That I did have dreams.
And I had some disturbed sleep. I kind of went back to when I was 20 and 30, and I was only sleeping about 4 or 5 hours a night, which I do not like.
But as soon as you took the patch off, you went right back to sleeping. It took a few days, but you went right back to your old habits.
Yep. And so, as a chiropractor, I can't tell somebody taking aspirin. So, this is the information is out there. You can find it and see it. It's not within my scope of practice, and this isn't something that this doesn't necessitate a doctor-patient relationship. This is just our experience.
Yes, and I would just you can go on. I googled it, but you can use Google Scholar and pull up nicotinic receptors, and you can get nicotine research based on long haul, and just read it. It's absolutely fascinating. This is not something that's new. They've actually they were researching nicotine even before long haul, but it's just how European doctors just started noticing very quickly that the population that should have been suffering the worst was actually faring better. And then they kind of just, tweaked out what they thought maybe the, whatever it was they
did the scientific method and tried to figure out what was going on.
Nicotine was the one thing that popped up. So, and then, with the long haul issues, and that's actually very common these days in a lot of practices. They see this, and no matter what they do, they're not getting better. But nicotine goes in, and your nicotinic receptors want the nicotine, and so your nicotinic receptors they will release what they're holding to get the nicotine. Of course, the nicotine doesn't last very long, and so then you freed up that. But also, spike proteins attached to the your spike proteins take up those nicotinic receptors, and then the snake venom is also sits in those receptors. So it basically just clogs up stuff and causes neurodysfunction.
So that's been our experience with this. Pretty intriguing. So thank you for a wonderful evening. We're all going to kind of shut it down a little early here. She's recovering, as you can hear. Poor girl.
Terrible. I just feel terrible.
So we'll see you next week.